the early rush hour at Sydney Airport. Before noon, 45 flights will land and over 4,000 passengers will enter the country.
Can you come to this area?
It's not unknown for drug couriers to time their arrival for a busy period to blend in with the crowds. For customs, this is when they most need to be on their toes, looking for any suspicious behaviour. One man has caught their attention. Officers have spotted Carlos Riviero Conde, who has just arrived from Buenos Aires. He doesn't speak English, so Customs Officer Clarinda has been called in to translate.
Antes que empiece a mirar la maleta, le tengo que hacer una pregunta. No se preocupe que preguntamos todo lo mismo a todas las personas. ¿Esto es su nombre?
Instincts can often pay off with big drug busts, or Carlos might just be an innocent tourist. While Clarinda questions Carlos,
¿Cuánto tiempo se queda?
Acá, sobre 15 días.
Customs Officer Michael runs an ion scan on swabs taken from his luggage.
I understand you're here to work as a panel beater for 3 months in Australia.
Correct.
Okay, I need to talk to you about that and about the type of visa that you have, because there may be some problems.
18,000 Americans come to Australia to work every year, using a range of visas which allow them to work here temporarily. It's up to the traveller to ensure that they have the right visa.
Are you employed at the moment as a panel beater in the United States?
Yes, that is my normal profession.
And are you currently employed?
I'm self-employed, so at the moment I'm not working. I was coming here to work.
How much money did you bring with you, Mr. Miller?
About $1,000 US.
And what sort of money did you think you were going to be making here?
I really didn't know yet. I mean, just the opportunity to get out of the house and come see Australia and work at the same time sounded like a good idea at the time.
It's an excellent idea if you can do it. The problem is, I don't think you got the right visa to do it.
Carlos is remaining calm, and nothing seems to be fazing him while officers continue their search.
That iron scan, we just took off the guy's backpack. It's basically just come up for high cocaine readings.
A positive reading doesn't automatically mean a person is smuggling drugs. Cocaine is extremely sticky, and even the slightest contact will leave a residue that could last for months. But that simple test does mean that Customs is now much more interested in Carlos and his luggage. Ken has finally fulfilled a dream to see Australia on a working holiday. He applied for his visa on the internet.
Some people take advantage of the fact that they can get them over the internet and actually put incorrect information when they seek the visa. Other people simply don't understand the conditions and terms for what they're applying for. And I think that's probably what's happened in this case today. What do you understand to be the terms and conditions of that visa?
Basically that I could work here as long as there weren't any other Australians available that could do the job that I'm here to do.
That's pretty close. There is one of the
Unlike
conditions
some,
on the visa
Ken
that
has
says
tried to do the right thing.
He got his visa through the internet. He thought it was for business. He saw the magic word business. He thought that gave him a permission to work. It doesn't. He's here to work. He doesn't have the funds to support himself for 3 months without it. So it's not looking good in terms of retaining this 977 visa.
There are 7 visas you can get over the internet. It looks like Ken has picked the wrong one.
The visa that you have, that you got over the internet, is actually called a business visitor visa, right?
Okay.
And it's for businessmen who are coming here for the purposes of things like a meeting or a conference or a speech or something like that. It's not actually a work permit. It'd be like an Australian turning up in the States to work without a green card. On a holiday visa or something like that, the States would turn that person around. And you're in a similar situation here. So what you're faced with now is the prospect of us considering the cancellation of this visa. And if that's the case, then you would be refused entry today to Australia and asked to go home again. Basically, we'd be putting you back on a plane.
I understand. Is there a second option?
Over in Customs, officers are involved in a potentially volatile situation with a man who's refused to join the crowded line at passport control.
The passenger's just presented himself at the primary line. He's walked past a number of Australian citizens who are standing in line. They've processed it that he's pushing in. The processing officer then said, look, I'm not going to process you until you go to the back of the line. He then said because of his Aboriginal heritage, he's exempt and he doesn't need to be processed. Look, the behaviour this bloke has displayed throughout since his arrival at the airport has been of concern. I need to monitor this examination just to make sure that if anything does happen, I'm on hand to respond.
I'm an Aboriginal Australian. I've come back from a trip to Israel. I identified myself as Aboriginal. When I identified myself, they didn't want to process me until they'd process other families. And they say to me, oh, can you come this way? They want to inspect my bags. I feel like I've been discriminated against.
Passenger Michael is showing impatience, but this time he'll just have to wait as Customs prepares for a search of his bag.
This bag has been sealed from Israel. It's been through the high security in Israel. I don't see why they should be opening my private things.
Customs, Sydney Airport. Renee is carrying out a thorough search of Carlos's luggage. Officers suspect him of carrying drugs, but so far they've found nothing.
Just put the bag through on various angles to try and see if there's any inconsistencies. What I'm going to do some iron scans of the inside of the bag. I'm just not 100% happy with the shading along here.
There's still no proof that Carlos has done anything wrong. But now, with each passing test, this inspection is turning into something much more.
Can you run that one for me? It's the inside of the red bag.
Nosotros acá en Australia somos bien, ¿cómo se dice? Rigurosos. Como el problema de droga entrando acá, problemas personas venir para quedarse y así. Nosotros tenemos que...
I got positive iron scan readings for coke and cocaine again, but after drilling the bag, no powder did come out of the bag, so it makes it a bit hard for us to tell.
Can you x-ray this?
I'll get someone to x-ray.
And he's had that glued on. That does make me think, because normally that should just pull off. I've taken the screws out and I should be able to just slide that handle off, but it's not coming off at all.
Michael has just returned from Israel, where he's been studying Jewish law, and he seems acutely sensitive to protocol.
This bag has been sealed from Israel. It's been through the high security in Israel. I don't see why they should be opening my private things without scanning it first.
I'll scan it if you like. The result of the x-ray won't determine whether it's physically examined or not. Okay? All right, it's basically too hard to say whether there is anything there or not, from my perspective anyway. All right, sir, so I've x-rayed the bag, and as I said to you, I still wish to examine it. Okay?
Right, is all this just clothing and things like that, sir?
And documents.
Plants, parts of plants, traditional medicines, including herbs, seeds, bulbs, straws or nuts. Now you tick note of both of those questions, sir, and yet you've got nuts in the bag.
Probably because I just didn't realise.
Okay, so do you have any more food, any sweets, lollies, bread, nothing like that?
Not that I realise.
Okay, so there may be some in there?
I've looked.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Ken's plans to spend a few months working in Australia are fading fast.
I have here a formal notice of intention to consider cancelling the visa, and you will have a period of 10 minutes in which you can think about it and tell me why your visa should or should not be cancelled. If it is cancelled, you'll be removed from Australia back to the United States. If it isn't cancelled, then it's going to be difficult not to cancel it given the purposes of your visa. Anyway, at the end of that time, I'll listen to anything you want to say about why you wish to either enter Australia today or not, why you think your visa should be cancelled or not, Immediately after that, we'll make a decision about cancellation. All right, and I'll get you your water too.
Thank you very much.
Interview suspended, 9:35.
I don't know. I thought I was going through the proper channels coming over here, but evidently I wasn't. So, I mean, I guess typical of most government paperwork, it's a little hard to read and understand.
I mean, he's a nice man. I don't particularly want to send him back and create all this hassle, but at the same time, he didn't read what he was supposed to read when he applied for the thing. The employer didn't read what they were supposed to read when they basically did it this way. There are other means by which it could have happened, but it's not going to happen on the 977 visa today. In the meantime, while this is going on, we've been talking to United Airlines just to give them a heads up that they might have a refusal today, and they'd make an arrangement to put that person back on the plane today, so he doesn't have to go to Villawood, he doesn't have to stay here till long, and he can just get home and sort himself out. All right, Ron, I think we will talk to United.
Where's this from, sir?
It's a Woomera, mate.
So you brought it from here, over there, and brought it back?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. I just want to make sure that it wasn't being imported from overseas.
Michael is an Aboriginal Jew who returned from Israel. Customs noticed him when he jumped the queue at passport control. Now officers are discovering some undeclared, prohibited items.
I draw your attention again to question number 7. Where it says,
Yeah, I told
bringing...
you just before, I told you it might be something else. We dealt with that,
So does that include this right here, sir?
But the issue wasn't the big issue that we're talking about was security. If I remember what you're saying, what it wasn't about, you didn't mention anything about wood or anything. You're worried about the security, that I might be a threat to Australian security.
Initially out there at the migration process, we mentioned that. I haven't mentioned anything about that. I just said we needed to physically examine your luggage.
Mr. Miller's 10 minutes are up now. He's had a chance to think about what he's going to say to me. It seems pretty clear-cut, this one. He is here to work in contravention of the visa that he's got. I don't know what else he has to say, but I'll be exploring any other reasons that he might have after we make this decision. So I'll go and chat to him now and see where we go. Right, interview resumed at 9:48. As you know, Mr. Miller, I've given you a notice outlining our intention to cancel your visa. You've now had some time to think about why we should or shouldn't cancel it.
It doesn't look like I have really any way out other than the hardship visa that you talked about for the 30 days.
A border visa is the one we were talking about, and that's normally granted to somebody who has compelling and compassionate circumstances to be in Australia for a short period. And what I'd be looking for would be things like family connections, medical reasons, funerals.
So, I mean, I don't have any other course than basically get back on a plane and go home.
All right. Well, your visa is going to be cancelled today, the 977 visa, and we will be making arrangements for you to go back out on the United Airlines flight.
I've got my Australian souvenir. Denied. You're going home.
He's taken it in a remarkably good humour, considering he's just about to go 9,000 k's back across the Pacific. But apart from that, he seemed to be acknowledging the fact that, yeah, I should have looked into it, my employer should have looked into it, and there's nothing to stop him coming back in the future. He's not a bad man. He just had the wrong thing at the wrong time, that's all.
Ken returned to the US that afternoon. He's subject to a 3-year exclusion period which can be waived, and he can then apply for another visa. In Customs, officers are dealing with a very different problem. So far, there's no trace of drugs in Carlos's bag.
So is that clean?
Yeah, I can't see anything down there at all.
But now it's his story that doesn't add up.
And I just basically spoke to him about where he's coming from. His itinerary was very interesting. It does match up with previous couriers and narcotic seizures. He didn't really know much about the area he was staying in the hotel. He claims to be a surfer and thinks that he's going to buy surfboards with information that he's been told in the shopping centre outside the airport. He has got a story planned, but it doesn't fit reality of what happens out here.
Officers use their extensive experience and instinct, and Carlos is starting to show some anxiety.
Pretty well sure that the guy's got it. Actually 99% sure that he's got it. It's just a matter of where. So we'll go into a frisk. See how that goes. If it comes up negative, well, tell him to tell me to stop if he wants. I'll have to have a chat to him privately and assess him for an internal search. I'm pretty sure he's got it.
In another part of customs, officers have found some prohibited items in Michael's bags, and things are becoming a little heated.
So just for the time being, can you put that down? Thank you. Thank you.
How are we going this morning?
Quarantine officer Paul has been brought in to examine the items found in Michael's bags.
This is from Australia. He said this is from Australia as well.
I didn't say it's from Australia, I said it's from here.
Right, mate. These ones are prohibited, yeah? You can't have these. That's prohibited.
Why is this prohibited?
Why is it prohibited? Right? Pot purees, blanketly prohibited, because this has got seeds in it. See those seeds?
Yeah, but it's not just that.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
There's one seed in there, it's prohibited.
What about the eucalyptus?
Yeah, mate, they're telling me you can't bring any fresh leaves into Australia, mate, and those ones are actually covered in diseases. You can see those little diseases on there, right?
A few diseased leaves may seem harmless, but could be devastating to our native trees.
Now, next question. Why didn't you declare these items on the card here, sir? You're filling this card out, right? You've broken the law of your country and my country, mate.
Oh, no, it's not my law. It's your
Really?
law.
It's
custom law from what year?
Huh?
What year's that law come from? No, what year's the custom law, mate?
The customs law's got nothing to do with what I'm doing. The quarantine law, 1901.
The quarantine law, what year's that?
Huh? 1901.
1901, right?
Yeah. What, and you
should have
alive
been
before 1901?
What was wrong with the quarantine in
Mate, look,
1788?
I'm not gonna argue
when you
about it.
bring in a disease
Hey, buddy.
that killed off was part of the big genocide of Aboriginal people was disease.
No,
Thank you very much.
Sir,
I don't want to say another word till I get a lawyer.
Okay, can I speak to you then? Sir,
I've got nothing to say, sorry, I want a lawyer.
I respect you've got nothing to say, but I'm going to say something to you.
Discrimination.
Flight AR1183 arrived from Buenos Aires a few hours ago. All the other passengers on the flight have cleared customs and immigration. Carlos, though, isn't going anywhere. He's been cautioned and taken to an interview room.
His story is so-so, it's not a real crash hot, but the iron scans have come apply for cocaine. I'm pretty well certain he has something, but basically I have to go and assess him for an internal.
An internal is an ultrasound exam performed at a hospital. Carlos may still be carrying drugs inside his body. Before it gets to that, though, Carlos has one more chance to convince customs they've got the wrong man. Michael has been carrying leaves covered with disease. They could very well destroy our native trees.
So I've got something to say to you, and that is, as an Aboriginal, you must respect that by bringing in these items, you're putting at risk the native flora and fauna of Australia. It's got nothing to do with legislation, it's the risks involved, okay? And that's why the laws are in place. So you've got to understand that a person with a legal background should be aware that when they're signing a legal document, it's very important. Now, you with a legal background should have read that document carefully.
I said it's a mistake.
And understood it.
I said I've accepted where I've made a mistake.
Look, sorry to interrupt you. Look, can you just put that down and put it on your baggage over there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You obviously have no importance about quarantine law. It's really important, man. I'm protecting Australia.
I was talking about the importance of protecting my people.
We came into contact with him around the baggage carousel and referred him back to immigration. He finally agreed to have his passport processed and be processed through immigration.
Before Michael was cleared to leave, he was informed of the quarantine risk of the goods he failed to declare.
Had enough of it. Want to get home.
The issue with the pot puree, I mean, that's not really serious. Lots of people bring pot puree in every day, and yeah, I can understand how people don't declare that, but the fresh food items and obviously diseased leaves, I can't understand how he didn't declare that. It's beyond me. It'll be interesting to see what our scientists say about these ones, because if they're some disease we don't have in Australia, they'll be in seriously big trouble.
Carlos is trying to convince customs that he isn't a drug courier.
Yeah, okay. His travel plans were to go from Lima to Cusco and Machu Picchu, and then to Buenos Aires. If he had enough money, he was then going to organise to come to Sydney to surf, as it was his dream as a child.
Where are you going to surf?
¿Dónde que usted va a hacer de surf?
En el mismo sitio donde en el Cronulla Beach, donde estoy en el hotel, ahí mismo en esa playa voy a hacer surf.
So he's got the hotel he's staying at. He said, in Sydney, I know absolutely nothing. He goes, I have no ground knowledge of anything.
If Carlos is a legitimate tourist, he should know more about Australia. Strike one.
When was the last time that you used cocaine?
¿Cuándo la última vez que usted usó cocaína?
Ya hace en España.
¿Eh?
En España, ya hace como 5 o 6 meses.
Said in Spain about 5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months ago.
5 o 6 meses atrás.
Sí.
The ion scan readings off his luggage suggests Carlos has been in contact with cocaine much more recently.
In Spain, in Vigo.
Strike two.
Okay, are you carrying any drugs in your body?
¿Usted tiene alguna droga con usted hoy día a su cuerpo?
No.
No.
No, ninguna.
Nothing.
Ninguna.
Tell him we don't believe him
Él dice que no se acredita lo que está diciendo.
and we're detaining him for an internal search.
No, no tengo problema ninguno. Que
No, I have no problem.
Do you understand?
¿Usted entiende?
Sí,
¿Entiende lo que
lo he
dice?
leído.
You understand you got the right to say no?
¿Usted entiende que tiene el derecho de decir que no?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, they will do an ultrasound of your body. They can see everything inside.
Sí, pero yo no tengo ningún problema, pero yo lo que quiero saber es que después saber que me pagan a mí todo este tiempo y todo esto.
He says, I don't have a problem with any of this, but who's going to pay me my time for all this time? He says, I'll do anything you say because you're the ones, you are the bosses, but who's going to pay me for my lost time?
Carlos was referred to the Australian Federal Police. An ultrasound exam found that he had swallowed 86 small packages of cocaine, weighing approximately 430 grams. Carlos pled guilty and is now serving time in jail.
Okay, you pack the bag yourself?
Yes.
Okay. You know what's in
It's
the bag?
10 a.m. Passenger Aven has just arrived from Hong Kong. He says he's a tourist, but he seems remarkably unprepared for a holiday down under.
Where are you staying in Sydney? You haven't put down where you're staying. Where will you be staying in Sydney?
I'm wanting to stay in a hotel.
Which hotel?
Hotel around downtown, something like that. Around
Downtown?
town. Yeah, around town.
Have you made a booking at all yet?
No.
What will you see while you're in Sydney?
See?
Yeah, with the sights, or what do you plan to do for the week? You're here for 7 days?
Yeah, just stay, look up. Just look at
Just look at, yeah, but what?
like, just go around places, just see how the city looks
Do you
like.
know any places in Sydney?
I know I've been.
Well, usually if I was going to go, where you're from, the States, if I was going to New York, I might want to go and see the Statue of Liberty or, you know what I mean? So what would you want to see in Sydney?
Oh, what do I want to see in Sydney? I just want to like go around.
It might be a long way to come, but he's not leaving the airport until Customs is satisfied with his story. For many young Aussies, living overseas is a rite of passage, a chance to see the world and earn some cash. But the return trip can sometimes be bumpy. Michael has spent 3 years teaching English in Japan.
Is this your signature?
Yes.
Okay, are these all your own bags?
Yes.
Did you pack them yourself?
Yeah.
Singapore.
And now there's only one thing standing between him and his family. Kathleen from Customs.
Okay, that's fine. Anything else?
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice this. Sorry, I've got lots of yen in my pocket. Is that okay?
How much?
Like a bit over 3 million.
Michael didn't declare his cash on his entry card.
I'm thinking that.
Once signed, this is a legal document. So a false declaration means Customs will quickly become very interested in you.
Okay, so you have cash.
I do have cash in my pocket.
Right.
In yen.
That's all right. It's still
I don't know exactly what
equivalent. You know yourself.
But I
You just
think
read
it's-
it.
Yeah, but I just noticed that, and so I think it's more than that. So maybe that one would be a yes.
All right. So approximately 3 million yen. All right. Hendo, can you find out the conversion of 3 million yen? He thinks it is over 10 grand. So
$10,000 is the most you can bring into the country without declaring it to Customs. Fail to declare it and you run the risk of being fined, losing the money and even jailed.
all right. Have you got your airline ticket there as well?
38,000.
What?
Does that sound right? Is it 78, the exchange rate, 78.88? 38,000?
Great. 3 years of savings.
You said it was just over 10,000.
This could be a very expensive lesson for the teacher. Customs officers aren't satisfied that Adayam is a bona fide tourist. They want to check him out further.
You can take this bag and just x-ray it. Okay, what we're worried about is just this side here. It seems to be a bit heavier than the other side. Okay, it might just be because of the wheels, but just have a good close look at that.
It looks fine to me. I want to make sure that the bag is emptied with stuff here.
Read it, okay, and just to make sure that you understand it.
The bag checks out, but Customs Officer Rob is still not satisfied.
When did you plan to come to Australia? Like, when did you buy your ticket?
I bought my ticket this month.
This morning?
This month.
This month. How much was it?
I bought the multiple trips, so I don't know.
Multiple trip. You're not sure how much?
I'm not sure how much for Australia, but it's a multiple trip.
How much in US dollars? Yeah, how much all up?
You'll have like 1,400.
1,400.
1,400.
So how'd you pay for it? With cash or credit card?
No,
or?
with card.
With your card? Yeah. What we're going to do, we're a bit worried that you might have something on your body. Okay, so what we want to do is to give you a pat down. Okay, a frisk.
Back in Melbourne, our world traveller has just come back home with a thud.
So you do not have to say or do anything. Anything you do say may be used in evidence. Do you understand that?
How much is it here?
I think a bit over 3 million.
Michael's 3 million yen is equal to over 38,000 Australian dollars, far exceeding the undeclared limit.
How much did you take out of the bank account?
I've got my bank about 3.3 million. But since then I've spent some, so I haven't counted it since I've actually come over here.
So you're aware that it was over 30,000 Australian, roughly? You would have been aware of it. You would have been aware of the conversion, roughly.
Vaguely, but I didn't notice the question on the card until just there. I was reading it more
Didn't you get the card on the plane?
No, I got it like from a guy in the line. Can I go back and do another card and come back? Or
no, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Australia tries to keep track of all the currency coming in, and obviously when you're bringing in and out of cash, there's no record of it. So that's why they need to fill out a form. It's basically we're trying to find money launderers and that are bringing in lots of large amounts of cash.
Money laundering is a global problem. Moving undeclared cash between countries can help organised crime and terror groups conceal the true source of their income.
The person in the line next to me said, oh, it's all just like bad things, just do no. And that's probably where I made my mistake. I didn't really carefully go through.
You are a teacher, right? What do you teach?
English.
English.
If Michael had declared the cash, he would have been free to go after filling out a simple form. That's not going to happen now.
The passenger's got over 3 million yen undeclared, so we're now going to run a few checks and also contact the Federal Police.
Quarantine, Sydney Airport. There's some confusion over a passenger's declaration card.
When I first start off, if you read and understood the questions on the card...
I understood the question, but you have to tell me that. I have to tick for that if I bring any kind of food. But you didn't tell me, actually.
No, that's what the card says. Any food, including dried, preserved. It says that on here. Yeah.
Chinese student Fei Li studies in Australia, making regular trips back to visit her family.
So do you understand why we're doing this?
Now officers have found undeclared food in her luggage, a breach of quarantine regulations.
This stuff is free list. This is allowed in, but you still have to declare it. It's food, so it doesn't matter whether it's beef, fruit, noodles, whatever, you have to declare it. Whatever you come into the country, That's why we have it on the card. That's why you get this card every time you come in. So if you have any food, you've got to mark yes on it. If you're not sure, it tells you to mark yes.
Seems pretty clear, but not to Feely.
Who's the responsibility for I'm not taking yes?
You're responsible.
No.
Yes.
You have to remind me.
No,
Last
we do
time.
remind you on this form. On this form, on the previous form, and on the previous form, every time.
You didn't remind me that I have to take yes.
Back in Melbourne, Michael's undeclared cash is causing him more problems than he imagined.
These two officers are from the Federal Police. They just want to have a quick chat to you.
The Federal Police are involved because money laundering is a federal offence. They decide now what's going to happen to Michael.
So he has actually volunteered it.
He said that he might have more than $10,000.
Depending on what he tells the Federal Police, he could just get a warning and would just fill out the AUSTRAC form and he'll be sent on his way, or he could end up getting prosecuted and the currency seized from him.
At quarantine in Sydney, Chinese student Fei Li is still arguing her case to officers.
You can bring this stuff in, but you still have to declare it because it's food.
Yeah, I know. My fault is I didn't take yes, right?
Yes,
That's my
that's
fault.
right.
I know.
Yeah.
But you got problem. You think so?
No.
No, you don't think so?
No, I don't think we have, because the form is in your
This
language.
time you are right. But how about the last times?
For not declaring the food, Fei Li faces a $110 fine, a significant penalty for a struggling student.
I mean, 3 times. I always tick no. You didn't say anything for that.
You always tick no,
Yep.
and you brought food in with
Yep.
you before.
Yeah. And I always pass the X-ray.
Customs Officer Rob was not satisfied with this passenger's answers about why he's here. Now Rob's suspicions about Aven have paid off.
The frizz search has come back positive. He's got something wrapped around both legs. So it looks like, yeah, we've got something here.
Aven also had 3 packages in his pockets.
I've never seen that before. You'd strap it all on your body, not carry 3 in your pocket. It's easier for us to find, I guess.
So what I wanted just to caution you, okay, you don't have to say or do anything. Anything you do say or do may be used as evidence. Do you understand that? Yes. I've just made a cut in that. Okay, and those pellets have got white powder in them. All right. So do you know what the white powder is?
At Melbourne Airport, customs officers are having a closer look at the luggage of 2 Indian shoe salesmen who've arrived for a 3-day business trip.
Right, how many?
Mrs. 150 something. 150, 170.
150 shoes. That's a lot of footwear. The officer is concerned that the men haven't organised a carnet for import and export clearance. It's basic business practice and the sort of oversight which makes customs sceptical.
All right, they've got approximately 150 shoes, left and right shoes. They're saying to us that they're only one shoe, they're not pairs. What we're basically saying to them is we understand that, but there could be another suitcase coming in via another passenger. We're not saying that's what's happening, but it could happen. It could come through another port, maybe Sydney, Brisbane or somewhere else. You need to get this to a broker, okay, and have those shoes entered into Australia as a sample if you don't wish to have them drilled, okay? Otherwise, we will need to drill them.
The salesmen are faced with a tough choice. Immediately find a broker or drill a hole in every shoe. Meanwhile, in another part of customs, Michael has returned from teaching English in Japan, but he failed to properly read his passenger card and didn't declare cash well over the $10,000 limit. The Federal Police then became involved.
The Federal Police have spoken to the passenger and they're going to give him a warning and just fill out a cash form and he'll be okay to go.
It could have gone either way, basically, because I was unable to finish the form correctly, and I made a mistake. And I said that I didn't make any mistakes. They had the option to take me to court and confiscate my money. It would have been a very serious matter. In this situation, I didn't have to go through that. But it was close. It would be bad saving all that money and saying bye-bye to it so quickly for little result. But now I've got some spending money.
Chinese student Fei Li has returned to Australia with a lot of undeclared food.
We've got a passenger who's declared nothing on a card, opened up a bag and there's a lot of food in there.
Quarantine records all warnings given to passengers.
And she's on the computer. She had a verbal warning given to her in 2002. And that's basically all we need.
Last time when we took meat off you. And
Sorry?
we took some meat off you last time?
You see my passport. How many times I came in Australia?
Quite a few times.
Yeah.
About 4 times?
Yeah.
You've been in and out of Australia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And last time they took some meat off you?
Yeah.
Yes?
That's first time.
Yeah.
The first time.
That's right. And they gave you a written warning at that time.
Yeah.
At that point in time, they could have actually given you a $220 fine then. Right?
Yeah.
So again, it says, do you have any food?
Yeah, I know.
So every time that you come in and out of this country, you must declare your food.
It's now up to Stephen and Dennis to decide whether to fine this student. She's already been warned, so is a repeat offender, and it's not looking good for her. The 2 Indian shoe salesmen must now decide. Immediately find a broker to properly import their samples of shoes, or take each shoe and destroy them one by one.
Okay, we'll do that.
They've gone for the drilling option. A hole in each shoe will ensure that the men are unable to sell the shoes, which, if paired, could be worth thousands of dollars.
I don't want you to get injured if it breaks, all right? Hang on. Okay? That's it. Okay, all like that, all right? It's their property still. I'm not going to, I don't think the Australian government or customs want to deface somebody else's property. We're requesting that they do it. It's their sample they want to bring in, so yeah, basically that's why we do it.
Suspicions about this passenger have paid off. Customs officers have discovered he's carrying heroin.
What we're going to want to do now is I want to get you undressed, take your clothes off and have a look at and see what you've got around your body. At the moment, I'll ask you again, I'll give you a chance, okay? Can you tell me what it is?
You mean what's the same?
Yeah.
I don't.
What I think it is, I think that it's heroin. Okay? You don't know? So you still don't want to tell me what it is?
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Customs have caught Adayam red-handed.
He's just got 3 pellets in his pockets. During the frisk search, we've also found around his calves, there appears to be a body pack. We don't know what it is yet, but we've just done the line scan, so we'll wait and see. And he hasn't told us what it is yet, but there's obviously something there.
The question is, why would anyone try to walk through customs with drugs in their pocket? Customs could think of any number of reasons, but only Adayam knows, and he's not saying much.
Who gave it to you, or where'd you get it from?
I got it from Hong Kong.
Yeah, where in Hong Kong? Who gave it to you?
I don't know the guy. I don't know his name.
What, so someone just gave you pellets of white powder and something around your leg and you don't know who he was? I don't think you're telling me the truth.
Yes, I'm telling the truth. I don't know.
You're not telling me the truth. I'm giving you a chance here, you tell me the truth.
So the person who, I don't know the name of the person who gave it. I don't know.
Well, where was it? Or where did you meet him?
I didn't meet him. I was just like,
You have a think about it. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions in a minute. But you're in some pretty serious trouble already. You have a think about if you're going to tell me the truth the next time I ask you a question, all right?
Yes, sir.
This time,
unfair.
this time you have not declared your
It's
food
unfair.
items. No, it's
Feely's
not.
been hit with a $110 fine. This could be the only way to make her understand the importance of Australia's quarantine law.
So if we don't charge you this time, next time you won't do it again.
Yeah, next time I will take yes.
Yes?
I will remember.
Right.
But I'm just asking you why you didn't tell me for the second time. I just said for the second time.
You probably were told the second time, and you were probably told the third time.
They definitely would have told you when they gave you the warning, because that's part of giving you a warning, is explaining what you've done wrong so you don't make that mistake next time.
She's not happy, and I can see why she's not happy, but some of these people we have to get through to, and they don't learn.
I'm an overseas student. I'm traveling to Australia, and I didn't know that I have given a warning on a computer system. Actually, I think on the card, it said that like, did you take anything which is not allowed to bring to Australia? I think my food is okay because my kind of food could be found in supermarket. I think it's okay. That's why I always bring food and I always take no on the card.
The point is, unless you get through to these people in the first place, that they do need to declare the items. That's the whole idea of what we're trying to do, is to get people to declare things. We can make the decision as to what's allowed and what's not allowed, and we can either give them back to them or tell them it's prohibited. There's nothing lost if they declare the items. The big point is when they don't declare the items.
At the start of the examination, he was okay. He was pretty cool. Towards when the pellets were located in his pocket, he started to get a little bit more nervous, and he became a bit more rigid in his movements and his stance.
That's over 1 kilogram of heroin strapped to Adayam's calves, with a street value of $600,000. He was intending to be here for 1 week. Chances are he's going to be here for a lot longer.
He's been pretty calm all the way through. He wasn't aggressive or he wasn't upset or whatever, but he's sort of now his demeanour is the game's up.
Adayam Fawali was charged with importing prohibited goods. He pleaded guilty. Billions of dollars cross our border every year. Not all of it is for legitimate reasons.
See your name? Your signature? You speak English?
I don't know Youngese. I don't know.
No.
This passenger's bags were x-rayed by quarantine. They found a stash of cash which had been deliberately hidden. Now Customs is interested in him.
He's got a nice concealment there aboard, and it's been put on the bottom of his bag. So we'll probably I'll ring Oscar 1 and get him to sort that out, because it's actual concealment. And we'll probably body frisk him, but I'm Yankee to Charlie if you need me.
While one officer does a background check, another continues the search of the bag.
This is a possible concealment of currency. It may be in excess of the $10,000 cash. 3,000 US, Aussie. We've got a lot of US dollars here.
We'll put the things back here, this bag. Okay, make sure nothing's there.
Attention all enforcement officers. Anyone in the vicinity of a Mandarin-speaking officer, Yankee 2 Charlie.
You got any more money inside? Cash? No, not at all? Dollars? Chinese?
Officers believe this man is hiding something. Their radar is up and routine checks are turning into something more.
How to open this one, sir? How to open?
这放录像带 ，OK。
3天左右，我记不准了。
Officers try to work out just how much money is in the concealed wallet.
Can you get a conversion rate? Work out the conversion rate for the US dollars first.
While the counting continues, there is another fear.
I'm concerned there's stuff on his body.
Yeah, what happened is?
We'll get to it. Now you asked him if he had anything on his body. He said no, didn't you?
No.
He said no?
No.
Oh, you haven't asked him?
He said no.
he's definitely got something.
In the Northern Territory, crew from the Customs Marine Unit has just raised anchor from their Darwin Naval Base.
Anchor secure.
Roger that, thank you. Stand down.
The high-tech vessel is sailing off to take part in an operation, hoping to apprehend illegal Indonesian fishing boats poaching in our waters.
Just the highest centre forward tank.
This
level.
operation is a combined effort between several agencies. They are hoping to catch boats illegally fishing in Australian waters.
I guess what we're talking about is a fairly well organised, sophisticated operation. There are about 14 more boats still there.
That's not to say that we won't react to any other threats to the border while we're out there. On this occasion, we're actually operating closely with the Navy vessels that also operate out of Darwin, and we're targeting specifically illegal fishing.
With reports of larger than usual numbers of boats out there, they are ready for anything.
What I want to do is, do you want to take a photo of this?
Passenger Lee has arrived in the country with cash hidden in his bags.
In the very bottom of it, underneath, there was a wallet, and as you can see, it's all taped up. So we're concerned that it might be over the $10,000 limit of cash that you can bring into Australia.
The amount of undeclared cash allowed into the country is $10,000. Officers think Mr. Lee might be hiding more.
We're also concerned that there may be a concealment on his body. He was asked by a Chinese-speaking officer if he had anything on his body, and there's quite significant bulges in his jacket.
Information has come back that they are dealing with a Chinese national who's an ex-policeman. Jono now wants a further chat with the passenger.
Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to take him to a room to get an interpreter.
An ex-cop. Passenger Lee has learnt some tricks and he knows the law. Mr. Lee is now refusing a frisk search.
So he's refused.
He's refused that.
He's refused external.
Well, then I've said that it's going to be upgraded.
When a passenger refuses a frisk search, customs officers consult a justice of the peace, who acts as a mediator.
I'm going to detain him for the purpose of an external search. He can maintain his rights, but if the Justice of Peace orders it and he still refuses, force will be used. Reasonable force will be used to remove his clothing.
Every day, hundreds of thousands of parcels are couriered all over the world. Most will pass through a customs inspection without a problem. Some won't. In Sydney, customs officers Lewis and Jane are investigating a suspect package.
We have teams that are at the courier depots and they x-ray cargo coming into the country. And while they were x-raying the cargo, it was sighted on the screen there. He was quite sure that there was something inside the package.
The documentation with the package says that it's been sent from England and is headed for an address in Sydney's west. It seems to be a coffee maker, but the X-ray is showing something organic inside the maker.
You want to stand it up and get a second image of it?
And nothing organic has been declared.
Ah, beautiful, look at that. That's a very good image, that one.
It may turn out to be something as innocent as coffee beans, but this package will need to be opened. About 250 nautical miles out of Darwin, the Morning Watch on Corio Bay have spotted a small vessel on their radar.
You've got pen ready there. We have a green coach house. We've identified it as an Indonesian Type 3 fishing vessel. From experience there, it's just a small shark fin boat.
As Craig gets the boat into position, the 6-man boarding party prepare to approach.
Yeah, roger, likewise, mate. Boarding party's been briefed and we'll be ready to go in a couple of minutes on your call, over.
This is potentially very dangerous. Right now, officers aren't sure what they might be confronted with. United Airlines Flight 863 from San Francisco has just landed. But one US passenger is yet to cross the border.
The situation is we have an American couple, reasonably elderly, arrived in Australia. The wife has her passport and has been immigration cleared. but the husband can't find his passport.
Glade has been refused entry until he or his wife can find the missing passport.
Your husband has lost his passport? Yes. I'm trying to take a seat over here and we'll sit down and have a look.
Flight 811, carousel 2.
Check everything. He's looked through all his bags and all of the cabin luggage that you've had, and he can't find it anywhere. Now that's definitely yours.
This is where I keep my passport.
Okay. I've contacted the airline staff and they're going to have a look on the plane.
It's a legal requirement that you have a passport in order to be able to come through, because you have to be able to present satisfactory evidence of identity. He's unable to do that at the moment, so we have to be a little bit constructive about what we're going to do with this guy, or he's going to have to go all the way back to the States today. So I've got to ring the consul, see if they can confirm who he is.
Passenger Glade also has a new concern about his financial security.
They can use that to try to get into my bank accounts, I guess.
And without his passport, Glade could be turned back. His only hope of entry is for the United States consul to confirm his identity. By law, customs are allowed to open any package they suspect of carrying something illegal into the country. It's not a responsibility they take lightly.
So it's in the base. All I have to do is get it out, get access to that base, see if we can get the itomizer swab onto it, and we should get something positive out of it.
Well, it looked very
it's
good
like
on the
unwrapping a
imaging.
present without tearing the paper.
Just have to make sure these tapes go back as close as possible to original, so it doesn't look like it's been tampered with too badly.
If the package is carrying something illegal, the federal police may decide to set up a controlled delivery to catch the smugglers red-handed. But to do that, the package must appear untouched.
Was it just going to a personal residence or a business address?
Personal residence, but yeah, looks a bit dodgy anyway.
That's it. And it's a sunbeam.
Right, what I might try and do is see if we can get a swab all the way around this area here, see if we can pick up some particles. And just under the best chances around where the cracks are and where those holes are there.
Alrighty, just going to run this through and see if it has picked up any traces of narcotics. And as you can see on this, we've had a drugs detection for cocaine, which by that is quite a high reading.
Passenger Lee arrived over 2 hours ago with a concealment of cash in his bags. Officers believe this ex-cop has more cash, but he's refusing a frisk search. As his family wait patiently for him, Mr. Lee isn't going anywhere.
Okay, what's happened so far is that we've wanted to do a frisk search on this passenger. He's refused to consent to the frisk search. So as part of that, the next step is he refuses, it gets upgraded to an external search. He has not agreed to an external search, so we get an independent witness in, which is Justice. So he comes in, he listens to our side of the story, listens to the passenger side of the story, and then he makes a decision whether the search will go ahead or not.
We've taken Mr. Lai down to a baggage barrier where he's been examined, bag examination by customs 100%. During that examination, an amount of currency was located in one of his bags. The currency appeared to be concealed within one of those bags.
Nerves are frayed and it's tiring for all involved. The passenger has now been at the airport for 5 hours and customs officers have been on shift for nearly 13. Neither party is willing to relent.
Okay, Mr. Zhao, I have in the room a passenger by the name of Songshi Lee. Can you just explain to him that we're going to start recording and everything that's said in this room from here on end is going to be on video and audio?
Immigration officers are still investigating 72-year-old Glade, who's lost his passport.
I thought I still had it in my bag somewhere and I hadn't gone through everything.
Okay, I have an American citizen here travelling with his wife to Australia for a cruise holiday. Unfortunately, what has happened is he's lost his passport en route, and when he presented at the immigration line today, he was unable to show us a passport.
Peter makes a plea to the US consul on behalf of the passenger.
And he's quite distressed at the fact that his passport... Well, the fact that his passport is lost, I think, is concerning him greatly. I have his passport details, though, because he, with great foresight, happened to have a photocopy of the front page.
All I've got is copies. But
you can tell her it's frustrating when you show up.
It is frustrating. They did remind me to make a few copies of my passport.
And that's just as well, because Peter's got some good news.
It's all sorted. I've just spoken to a lovely lady at your consul, and she's confirmed everything that I needed to know.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
Not a problem, sir.
Well, thank you very much again. I appreciate that.
Glade's lost passport has been cancelled. He needs to get to the US consulate in Sydney as soon as possible so they can reissue him with a new passport. Meanwhile, on the waters north of Darwin, under the watchful eye of Skipper Craig and Superintendent Keith, the Corio Bay boarding crew climb onto the Indonesian fishing boat.
They are in the process of conducting the investigative boarding. They'll be looking for evidence of fishing that's actually occurring right now, or recent evidence that fishing has occurred.
It's basic seafaring, and they seem to know just where they were headed.
All the crew are from the same island in Indonesia. They didn't have any documentation or anything like that, or any sophisticated navigation equipment. They just had a compass. They've already said they were after sharks. That's why they were here.
On board, fisheries officers have found out the boat was after highly valuable shark fin, and so far they have pulled up 3 lines with small sharks attached to them.
They all came up without bait on them, and probably about half a dozen sharks altogether. We just cut them off and released the ones that were alive, and the ones that were dead were just thrown back in the water.
250 nautical miles out to sea, and with bad weather ahead, Keith and Craig grapple with the best way to deal with the situation.
That's about all I got for you, mate. We'll sit and wait and to hear from you.
Roger, ready to copy that?
Boarding party 50 go. We have had contact from our shore-based mock. Decision is that we are to apprehend the vessel and tow it to Gove. Over.
Yeah, roger, no problems. Once we've finished hauling.
The 6-man Indonesian crew is brought on board the Corio Bay.
We're just doing a security check, checking for anything that may be used as a weapon. Any knives, razors, any sharp objects, things like that.
For health and safety reasons, the men will stay here on the outer deck under 24-hour watch.
We keep them outside. They're not allowed inside the vessel, so we keep a quarantine area for the crew. Hopefully avoid any contracting any diseases.
The seas are 2 metres and rising. Bad weather is ahead and drastic action is needed. Customs vessel Corio Bay is towing the Indonesian fishing boat to Gove. The line is dragging, and officers have found the rickety vessel is filling up with water.
We can't put people back on it because it's too dangerous. It's not safe. We can't put him back on it or his crew. And if no one pumps, the boat's going to sink.
Basically, what's happened is we've been approved to destroy the vessel. We're going out there now. We're going to lay some charges on it.
We want to get out of there before it goes up, obviously, and minimising any environmental damage.
Officers have doused the doomed boat with diesel and have thrown 2 incendiary flares on board, while the Indonesian fishermen look on in resignation.
The captain himself's a bit worried because the owner will not be very happy with the situation, but there's nothing that they can do about it, so they've basically resigned to the fact that now they're going to be taken back to Australia and will be dealt with by the courts there. So, but generally they're really well behaved and they've accepted their fate.
Back in Sydney, this coffee maker is either worth $50 or 2,000 times that much.
See this bulge there?
Yep.
Where it's not even actually flat. So just need to get the screwdrivers and get the bottom off.
Thank you, baby.
Yes.
Bingo. Nice. Okay.
It's a good size. We
Further
just get one more
deconstruction?
swab of that,
Just want to have a look in there.
and then we'll hand that over to the Federal Police.
Yep.
As we have before, we've taken one just generally off the item. Now this time we're actually going to run it off the package that we found concealed inside the machine and see what reading this comes back for. And this time yet again, we've had another drugs detected reading for another very high reading of cocaine.
It's a good find for customs. Weighing in at just over 200 grams, this small package of cocaine could be worth as much as $100,000 on the street. Two days after being found 100 kilometres inside Australian waters, the crew of the illegal fishing boat are taken off the Corio Bay at Gove in the Gulf of Carpentaria. 3 crew members were sent home. The skipper and 1 crew member were charged with illegal fishing and fined. The skipper was fined $5,500. Meanwhile, in customs, after a concealment of $7,000 was found in his bags, officers want to do a body search of this passenger, but he still won't allow it.
Personal opinion is it's a bit unusual. In fact, for the time period, if he has got nothing, he could have been out of the airport 5.5 hours ago.
The passenger's still refusing the search, to comply with the search, so now the Justice is going to make a decision on whether he orders the search or not.
Unfortunately for this stubborn passenger, his time is up because the Justice of the Peace has decided that Customs has the right to search him.
Mr. Lee has used all his legal rights up at this stage. He's been here for over 6 hours now. He's exhausted all his options, so he's pretty much run out. We've done as much as we can for him, so now the search is going to happen.
Has he got anything on his person?
我携带2万现金。
I have got $20,000 cash on me.
I must now caution Mr. Lee that he does not have to say or do anything, but anything he does say or do may be used in evidence.
As his family has been waiting for many hours, they will be told the grim news.
Yeah, he's got 20 grand on him. Yeah. Right, so he's going to be referred to the AFP.
Right, yep.
So you can tell him that, tell them that he is here, but he's with us and we're still investigating.
Basically, if Mr. Lee had declared the currency on his way in to Australia, to Customs, he would have been out of the airport now 7 hours ago.
It was really a battle of wills today. It was this gentleman trying to use the system and stop owning up to the fact that he had some currency not declared and concealed on his body. So his battle was to use the system as far as he could, and ours was to follow the procedures right to the end, and he took us to our limits and we took him to his.
There was a total of $7,000 in Mr. Lee's concealed wallet and a further $30,000 in his underwear. Mr. Lee pleaded guilty to failing to declare currency over $10,000. He was fined $2,000 and made to forfeit all the cash. This passenger just arrived in Sydney on a flight from Hong Kong. He claims to be a tourist, here for a week to see the sights. But according to a tip-off received by Customs, he might actually be trying to smuggle drugs into Australia. At the barrier, a frisk confirms Customs suspicions. Watch the reaction of the Customs officer performing the frisk. He's felt something around the waist. This questioning will continue in a private room. 8 million passengers are processed through quarantine every year. For most, it only takes a matter of minutes and is relatively harmless.
When we ask you what you have, you must tell us everything that you have. If you have dry fruit, you must tell us that you have dry fruit. Okay?
All right. Okay.
Have you taken any food off the plane, sir? Have you taken any food off the plane?
No.
Food can mean a lot of things. Quarantine officers define food as anything that goes in your mouth.
Stone fruits are prohibited and are not allowed into Australia. They are high quarantine risk.
I take the food, I bought the food in, she can check everything, but last time I bought this, pick all the food, she said fine, but this time she said no. So she said no, she can take it away. She also put some bad record for me.
For this passenger, the process is a little daunting. He declared most, but not all, his food, and is now concerned that his record will be blemished.
She said you not take everything. So confused me. Food is many things, okay? But you can't make one bad record in here. Just this one. She said, last time I bought it in, this time I can't.
Nothing with last time, okay? That is by rule.
I take the food.
No.
Food is a thousand things.
Okay, you need to listen, okay?
Yeah.
If you talk every time, you need to listen too, okay?
Yeah.
If you're talking,
yeah,
you need to listen too.
I listen too.
No. Okay.
I absolutely listen to her.
Meanwhile, over in customs, there's more than just the incoming passengers to keep an eye on. Mail and parcels flooding into the country are also checked. And a small courier package has just caught their attention.
Take it on straight to the X-ray. Run it through and have a look. It's a package coming from Hong Kong. The description of the goods is document. It was detected out at one of the depots at first and they X-rayed it. There was an anomaly in the image. So deciding it needed further investigation, the package was brought back here so we could have a second look at it.
Customs call these packages HVLVs, an acronym that stands for high volume, low value. Usually the only things in these envelopes are documents.
Well, we've got documents, but in the middle here there's, can't really tell what that is. We're going to have a closer look at that.
It's got a very dark blue-black image in there.
Yeah, something a little bit denser than documents.
Well, high volume, low value consignments, we do a 100% check on those. There might only be small things, but you can do things like credit cards, money, small narcotic detections are found in them. Prohibited imports, often things that are far from being a document. Well, we can see it's definitely documents, so we'll take it into the deconstruction room and have a further look.
I'm a true person. I'm telling you everything.
Back in quarantine, this passenger thinks that he who yells loudest is telling the truth.
When she asks you that which bag is the food or what sort of food you got, you said biscuit only.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't say only. I said I got a biscuits and the food. That's
and
it.
food.
Yeah.
He told her that he only had biscuits.
Okay, this is the item. Okay, it's not allowed in. That's it.
If only that was it.
Why are you hiding something?
No.
If I want to hiding something, I won't take food.
No. You take the food. That's all right.
Your
That's
food,
good.
you are allowed to check everything.
Yeah, you're all right. Okay.
But she said, make my bad record. The next time you bought it in, you get a fine.
Yeah. Next time you need to tell everything that I got everything here.
I won't get in trouble 10 times already. I'll never get in trouble.
There still seems to be a little bit of confusion. The officer is trying to explain the process and the passenger is still refusing to listen.
Why she use the words?
There is no trouble.
Warning words for what?
Okay, there is no trouble. If you tell something,
she said that
we'll
make
check
a bad record in here already.
No, there is nothing record here.
She put it in the record.
I've been 31 years in customs, so no, I've seen them sending in many things in many different ways.
This courier package should only contain documents, but X-ray scans showed something different.
Just want to try and open this package so it can be sealed back up. Well, we don't know yet what we'll find in there, and two, how customs will run with it. If it's narcotics, then we'd be very careful how we're handling the evidence anyhow. It would be then forwarded on to Australian Federal Police. We've now got an inside envelope. It's a plastic envelope.
The quarantine X-ray at Sydney Airport. It shows a detailed picture of everything in a passenger's luggage, and you'd be amazed at what's in some people's bags.
What we have is what looks like some double-sided swords. So we're going to get customs down. We're going to have a look at them and get customs down. And the colour of it shows that they're a heavy metal or a heavier metal. Going to get some expert advice.
Customs officers first noticed this young man. He seemed nervous and didn't have much luggage. Now immigration is interested in him.
Now the first question is, why have you travelled to Australia today?
第一个问题是，您为什么今天来澳洲呢？
旅行。
As a tourist.
Immigration is concerned about Cheng's intentions in Australia.
Okay, and how long do you intend staying?
3天4天。
3 or 4 days.
It's a long distance to travel for such a short time. Ross from Immigration now has to work out if Cheng's actually a tourist or here for other reasons.
I note in the back of your passport, Cheng, you have a note to contact the hotel.
Yes.
Okay, are you aware of the costs associated with staying in that particular hotel?
不知道。
知道还是不知道？
不知道。
I don't.
Okay. That particular hotel is quite an expensive hotel to stay in. How much money do you have with you?
1500左右。
Approximately 1,500.
During your stay in Australia, what do you intend doing?
去走走。
I will be walking around.
Okay, do you have any confirmed plans of where you'll be walking around?
没有。
No.
He's not able to give me any firm or convincing information at all. Basically, the guy's got absolutely no idea why he's here. He's made absolutely no preparation for his journey at all. Now, during the period between 2001 and now, had you had a job?
都在做工啊。
I was working.
Okay, whereabouts were you working, Cheng?
您在什么地方工作呢？
Malaysia。
Okay, do you currently have an employment?
现没有。
No, not now.
The immigration supervisor has been informed about Cheng and is now working on the case.
If somebody who's been unemployed all of a sudden get this money to get to Australia, there's no way. I mean, he's gonna go back for 4 days for holiday. So they have other motives anyway.
And it's now up to immigration to find out what those motives are. Meanwhile, over in quarantine, one passenger faces losing these swords. While it's not necessarily illegal to bring weapons like these into the country, you must declare them for inspection.
Okay, how many of these are you carrying?
I've got 2 this size and a table sword about this big and a box and foam.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to have to call customs in regards to these, okay? Just basically because they'd be classed as a weapon, I believe. So yeah, just wanting to make sure that customs sees it and is they okay with it.
Under the Customs Act, dangerous weapons can be seized at the border.
Buy 3, you get 1 free. And you hang them on the wall. And one of them is a table sword, Eilat, in Israel. Yeah, souvenir. Yeah, they're replicas. My sister brought some back and she didn't get me one, so I thought I'd get my own.
Yeah, they're okay?
The swords may look deadly, but as they're obviously for ornamental use, Customs is happy to allow them into the country. The passengers are free to go. Immigration is concerned that Cheng has dishonest intentions in Australia.
Okay, what source of income have you had in the last 3 months?
没有收入啊。
I have income.
Okay, how was that income derived?
父母。
From parents.
With no job to go back to in Malaysia, Ross suspects Cheng may be in Australia to work illegally.
During your stay in Australia, is it your intention to look for a job here?
没有。
No.
What I'd like to do is to present a case of cancellation to you for the following reasons. On 2 occasions he's provided misleading information to me in relation to his employment status and also the reasons behind him being funded and the arrangements for his travel to Australia. The information that I've been trying to extract from him is not forthcoming.
We'll just go ahead and do the cancellation and see what he says to that.
The question remains, though, where does an unemployed young Malaysian man get the funds to fly to Australia? The answer may lie in his bag. A passenger has been tracked by customs and frisked. They suspect he's carrying drugs and he's now being questioned.
When they did a frisk on him before, the officer felt something around his waist. Can you ask him what it is?
Yeah, about a week ago. He said he's got he's got an injury on his back, and this is just trying to fix him up.
All right. Just ask him why he's sweating so much.
喂，做咩猛咁流汗啊？你好熱啊？好熱啊 He said it's because it's hot here.
All right. What we're going to, if you got something else there, it's not a back brace. You should tell us. Okay,
No.
Tell us now because what we're gonna do is to get you to take your clothes off, and we're gonna have a look anyway. So if there's something there, okay, let us know now. Is there anything there? It's not back brace, is it?
I want to do right things. I'm
In
Australian.
quarantine, this passenger is still not too happy about officers pointing out that he's brought prohibited food into the country.
I want to do right person.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, yeah, doing a good thing, okay.
I never get in trouble in the police or something. Why she put some record
No.
here?
If we are taking something, we need to keep a record, okay? We need to write it down, okay?
Of course you make a bad record in here. Look carefully at this person because last time not tell everything.
Yeah.
It's not a court hearing.
We haven't put a bad mark against his name. He has declared his food, which is great. He's done the right thing. He's asked what kind of food he has. He's just said he's got biscuits. But luckily enough, we've x-rayed it and we found that he has stone fruits, which are not allowed in.
When seeds are imported, they can transmit diseases which could decimate Australia's $270 million stone fruit industry.
Look at me like an enemy.
No,
okay?
not enemy.
I want to do right things.
You are our customer, okay?
I'm do right things.
Yeah.
I take my food. You can check whatever you like.
You
can tell me these things you can't bother in. I'm saying okay.
You are a customer, okay?
That's bad record in here means I'm not the right person again. Damage my personality forever. This time I bought these things in. Last 5 times I also bought this. That's my flavor. Next time say no. I don't know exactly that. You should list the book.
Well, it's not exactly a book, but perhaps he should have taken a look at one of quarantine's pamphlets, which inform on what is and isn't allowed into the country.
Put a record
You're
in
not
here.
listening.
Put a record in here. She said next time you might get a large fine because you are not right. She not treated very professional, no fairly to normal person. Okay? Thank you.
I wasn't going to give him a fine. I just wanted him to understand our role here is to try and educate passengers coming into Australia. I think he was just had a bad day.
And over at immigration, a document has been found in Cheng's bag. It might solve the question of why he's here.
It's an instruction on how to get here, there and everywhere.
A pamphlet that tells Malaysians where and how to get work in Australia. Someone's gone to some effort to get Cheng out here and to tell him what to do.
Like from Changi Airport to Sydney Airport and how to get to Shepparton.
Shepparton is going to be fruit picking.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheng's trip to Australia is over before it began. Immigration officers are satisfied that he's not a genuine visitor and that he was intending to work here illegally.
On the back of one of the pages here is a clear indication of how to get from Sydney Airport to, as it states here, Shepparton.
It looks like they're trying to get people down there individually because any group movement might attract attention.
It's probably a very well organised scam to employ illegal workers.
Illegal workers are easily exploited, often overworked and underpaid.
What normally happens is the employer takes is cut out before they get paid out.
Please advise Cheng that his visa is now cancelled. He is no longer the holder of a visa and he is now in immigration detention.
It is still not known who is behind Cheng's travels. There is a lucrative trade in organising people to work illegally in Australia, and Cheng was another victim. Cheng was sent home 3 hours after arriving at Sydney International Airport. In customs, officers Jane and Andy are opening a suspicious package.
Got a magazine on the inside. And that's our little blue-black images that we got on our X-ray screen.
Yeah, it's not just documents.
Certainly. If you can clearly see that, they definitely look like diamonds. So they're six-sided, all look about the same shape. They'll have to be valued, and then this consignment will be passed on to one of our compliance assurance teams. The consignee will be notified that their packages come under customs notice through an X-ray, and goods inside were noticed that weren't documents, and they'll be asked to please explain. And then customs will take action from depending on what the reply is.
If these stones are diamonds, the unpaid GST could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. In Sydney, there's been an interesting development in the case of the smuggled stones.
Customs has contacted the owner and the supplier of the goods, and they've sent us a letter of explanation. They've also sent an invoice stating that the goods are cubic zirconias with a value of $3. However, Customs has hired a gemologist just to make sure, and he'll determine whether they're diamonds or cubic zirconias.
Bill's been working with precious stones since leaving school. He'll be able to quickly determine if these stones are the real deal.
Unset diamonds like that are duty-free. So it's the GST, it's the tax that they're avoiding. And then there's always the possibility of if they were diamonds coming in like that, it can be used as a form of payment for other things, funding crime.
By the look of it, though, these stones won't be funding any serious crime.
Well, unfortunately, they're cubic zirconia.
No, it's the least we know.
An accurate result, but one that's a little disappointing for Customs.
In one way, yes, but in another way, this is a really good learning curve, because when you first see it go through an X-ray and the consignment's described as HVLV with documents, and then you can see on the X-ray that there's something else concealed in there, and then you open it and there's an obvious concealment in there. Naturally, you'd think precious stones, because you would wonder why would anyone go to that trouble to conceal a few dollars worth of cubic zirconias.
There could be any number of reasons, but the one that concerns Customs most is the possibility that this could be done by criminals to see how vigilant Customs is.
One can only assume that they would see if the parcel would be pulled up. So if obviously the parcel's pulled up with a dummy run, then the chances of them sending the real McCoy through would also get pulled up. What is good that this is still detected by Customs using the technology and the tools that they've got. I mean, HVLV, you're talking about several tonnes of cargo, and the officers were able to detect these small 10 little cubic zirconias.
This passenger arrived from Hong Kong. After a tip-off received by Customs, he was frisked. Now in the interview room, this drug courier has been stopped in his tracks.
There's a package of Glad wrap wrapped around his waist, and inside that Glad wrap is a black package, a plastic bag. Appears to be probably 2 or 3 kilos in weight. So I just made a small incision in the package. A little bit of white powder came out, so we'll see if we get any reading from the machine.
The 501 grams of pure heroin around his waist had a street value of over $300,000. The passenger was charged with importing a prohibited item. He pleaded guilty and is yet to be sentenced. Under questioning, he admitted to police that he would have been paid $40,000 if the shipment had gone through. Every day, people try to smuggle drugs into the country. Some think it's just a game, a small amount of pot or a gram of coke. But for others, it's a multi-million-dollar business.
Speak English? No English? No, good No.
The passenger has just come in off the flight from Hong Kong. He says he's here for 3 days. We're a little concerned because it seems unusual for somebody to come all that way for 3 days.
You can see a normal bag will be sort of clear, right? This one here, you can see it's loaded with packages throughout the bag.
The officers are suspicious of the passenger and his luggage. Things just aren't weighing up.
What's his status? He's a citizen. Okay.
Immigration compliance officers are performing a vehicle
Citizen.
check with the focus on taxi and shuttle bus drivers, trying to identify illegal workers.
I'm just going to call for the van to come over. What nationality?
Ukrainian.
Yeah, Raj, can you get the van over here ASAP, please? We've got one. Okay, thanks.
Every week, the Immigration Compliance Unit does operations like this.
Driver of the shuttle bus just over here has been identified as holding a bridging visa E, which is basically no work. So I'll just wait for the van to get around because it's a busy roadway area. I don't want to sort of pull him out of the van and have him hanging around loosely. He may decide I might try a bolt or something like that. It's not really a good area for that. Here comes our van now. I'll get him to pull the van in and we'll approach him. Can I get you to accompany me, please?
Transport. This gentleman here would like to talk to you for a few minutes.
How are you, sir? Can I just ask you to step out of the vehicle for me, please? Just need to have a bit of a chat with you. Just over onto the curbside here for me, thanks. Okay, just walk down this way, thank you.
This passenger arrived from Hong Kong, and customs officers are checking his overweight suitcase.
Yeah, seeing the image, yeah, it looks like there's something concealed on the side, but something organic may not be drugs. We just suspect that at the moment. The dog can confirm that, and so can our own scan machine potentially. And the gentleman doesn't speak any English, so we're going to try and get an interpreter.
Doing the one scanner?
Yeah. The ion scan is able to detect the smallest particle of a narcotic substance. However, it has failed to detect any trace.
Came up negative on the ion scan. Get the dogs to
The
do
X-ray
it.
was pretty positive.
Oh, yeah.
With those images on the X-ray, the officers want to make sure that they haven't missed anything.
Yeah, we believe there may be some drugs in the side of this suitcase. We're now going to run one of our dogs on it to see if they get a reaction from it as well, and we'll probably do some other tests.
With a nose over 100 times more sensitive than humans, these drug detector dogs are trained to react if the bag has been in contact with narcotics. Immigration compliance officers have just caught Oli red-handed. He's driving a shuttle bus with a visa that does not allow him to work here.
How long have you been driving the shuttle bus for, sir? 1 year? Okay. Just need to have a chat to you about your work. Just take a seat for me, please, sir. No. In the front. In the front, Raj. Can you tell me what sort of visa you have?
I see.
Do you know what the conditions on that visa are, sir?
Condition?
Sorry?
Sorry?
Can you tell me what the conditions on your visa are?
It's okay.
Do you understand what I'm actually saying to you? Yeah, you understand me okay? According to our records, sir, the bridging visa that you hold is subject to condition 8101. Now, in short, that condition says that you must not work in Australia. Quite clearly, as you've just admitted to me, and as we've observed you, you are working. At this point in time, you will have to remain here. You understand everything I've just explained to you?
Friday morning at Sydney Airport. This is the busiest time of the week for quarantine. Flights from 20 countries will arrive before noon. Over at X-Ray 1, they're processing passengers who are considered high risk for bringing prohibited goods into the country.
When this gentleman came through, he was asked what he had because he's ticked yes to the card, which is in his own language. Basically, all he told us he had was noodles, and the x-rays showed up the eggs, as well as some of the other things like bark, which is also a prohibited item, as well as some fresh ginger root, which is also prohibited and also very high risk.
But it's the eggs which are of most concern.
They're actual duck eggs. These are duck eggs, they're preserved. At the moment, they're a very high risk item because there's an avian influenza bird flu, and the country it's coming from is China, where the actual bird flu is, and that's where it's the most virulent at the moment, so it's very important that we obviously get these.
Because it's his first time in Australia, Stephen's inclined to go easy.
Tina, can you just explain to the gentleman why we can't bring the eggs in and the ginger?
Meanwhile, just outside the terminal, the Immigration Compliance Unit has just detained a Ukrainian man suspected of working illegally.
Okay, this gentleman holds a visa to be in Australia lawfully, however the visa is subject to a strict no work condition. He's obviously been located here today driving a shuttle bus. He has admitted to me he has been driving that shuttle bus for the company for the past year or so. So that would apparently put him in breach of the no work condition. We will now move on to interviewing him regarding the possible cancellation of his visa. If at the end of the interview the visa is not cancelled, he will be allowed to go on his way. If, however, we find that he has breached his visa conditions substantially and the visa is cancelled, we would then have to move on to considering whether or not to either detain him and take him to Villawood.
Just the eggs.
This Chinese passenger has arrived with undeclared food. Quarantine's role is as much about education as it is enforcement. So this time, officers are considering waiving the fine.
His English is quite poor, so we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt for it, and he has ticked the yes, so I'm just explaining him why he can't have it.
I can do that for you.
Okay.
He was nearly on his way, with just a warning. That is, until officers found something else in his bag.
Okay, we've just found something which appears to be concealed. So could you ask the gentleman what it would actually be?
It's not drugs, but it's illegal and can be very destructive.
Okay, so what we have here is just, looks like bok choy or one of the Chinese stir-fry vegetables. Just looking at it straight away, I can tell you that they're not allowed in. Okay, so have you asked the gentleman why it was left here?
He explained to you that the quilt was packed by his brother.
If it was packed by his brother, I don't understand why he would need to actually package it right inside the thing. To me, personally, I believe it to be more likely to be a concealment, and I think that it would probably warrant a quarantine infringement for it, personally. For not declaring certain items.
This passenger has just flown into Sydney from Hong Kong. However, at the moment, he is probably wishing that he missed his flight.
The dogs that ran on the bag are very new dogs, but they all gave an indication that there was something in there.
Good boy, Levi. Good dog.
Time is running out as the officer decides to involve the Australian Federal Police.
We've got a guy this morning, and he looks like he's got a loaded bag, a couple of kilos in the size of his bags. Yeah, we don't know what the narcotic is at the moment, but it's an obvious large amount, and the street value will be very large. He's stated he's a pensioner, so he obviously doesn't have much money himself, and he seems to have been recruited off the street, if anything. A lot of couriers are recruited who need money, either because of gambling debts or because they don't have money, and they're quite vulnerable to being picked up as couriers. Just frisk him with the Spanish frisk card, and then after you frisk him, there's something there, then we'll take him to an interview room from there. We'll get AFP to get an interpreter.
We're going to conduct a frisk to look for, again, any further possible concealments of narcotics and any contact details or addresses that he might have on him. need you to read both sides of this card. Here or in room? You. Search.
With this gentleman here, he doesn't speak any English, so what we're trying to do is get an interpreter, so he fully understands his rights before we question him about what we suspect is narcotics in his baggage.
I'm going to caution the gentleman and you say it in Spanish, whatever I say. We believe you have committed an offence.
Él cree que has cometido un error aquí, entrando.
By importing narcotics.
Importando droga.
You do not have to say or do anything.
With all the evidence pointing to a narcotic concealment in his bag, this passenger's day is about to get a whole lot worse. Ukrainian national Oli arrived in Australia 5 years ago on a 7-week temporary visa. He didn't leave when that period expired and has now been caught working illegally.
It's very problem to visit Australia. I went for visa. It's 4.5 years. It's nothing. Immigration told me more. That's it. Enough for me enough.
For Oli and the many like him, being caught by immigration is not really a case of if, but more like when.
Obviously, knowing that he has breached that visa condition, he would anticipate that we are going to be interviewing him with regards to cancellation for that visa. So obviously he wouldn't be feeling very good at the moment. He'd be distressed, he'd be upset, yes, absolutely.
As news travels of Oli's detention, a co-worker comes out to the airport to comfort him.
He's a good person. I think he was expecting this day to come. I'm just very surprised with Australian government and their immigration policies. He deserves a chance to live in peace and have their family next to them. And that's what he was trying to achieve for 5 years. He applied for visa for 3 times, I think, and he's been refused every single time. With these qualifications, he's a doctor. And I thought that Australia needs good employers.
Meanwhile, in customs, it's well over an hour since this man's plane landed, and in that time, literally thousands of people have been cleared to cross the border. This passenger, however, is still being searched.
We're going to get him frisked, make sure he's got nothing else on his body. We're doing a couple of tests to try and get an indication of what is in there. We believe it's a powder, just by the images on the X-ray itself show that it is a powder, but whether it's heroin or cocaine, we're still to determine. There appears to be a concealment in both sides of the bag. As you can see, there's quite a number of cracks in the concealment, which would suggest to us that it's actually powder that's fallen away from the actual baggage or the packaging that's within that baggage. Because we've got this concealment here, we'll take this to a tool room and we'll put a small gimlet in the concealment to extract a small amount of the powder, and we'll test to see what it is. We're not getting any reaction from one of our other tests, but this will give us a good indication of what the powder is.
It's now just a matter of brute strength to find out if customs suspicions are right. Over in quarantine, officers are confiscating a large amount of food from this passenger.
The more we look, the more we find with this guy, and he knows what he's doing. He's concealed these things. You don't automatically pack your seeds and things inside your bags and hide them for no reason. People do strange things. It's if you wrote a book about the weird things people do, no one would believe you. They put it in the fiction section, but they do it.
但是没有任何的记录，就是跟违例派车一样，好吗 ？Okay. After I explained to him the situation, I explained to him what he has done wrong, and he was really very happy to cooperate. And he did apologize to us, and he was very happy to pay the fine, and he will not do it again.
The passenger was fined $220. That's an expensive way to start your holiday. Ollie has been taken to an office for a formal interview. This is his last stand.
If his visa is cancelled and he may go into detention, how would that impact upon him? What hardship would he suffer as a result of that visa cancellation?
Ollie has all but given up. The last 5 years without his family have been too emotionally draining. He misses his wife and his 10-year-old daughter, and now he just wants to go home.
All right, I'm just giving Ollie a couple of minutes to think over his responses. He is missing his family, and ultimately I think his wish is that they could come out here to Australia in order to be reunited with him, but at the moment, they are not sufficient grounds.
The hardship he believes he would suffer as a result of visa cancellation, and if he does go into Villawood, is that he would lose hope of his family being able to come out here and join him, as he would feel that that would be the end of that hope for him and he would have to return home. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Can you please notify Ollie that I have decided to cancel his visa. He will be taken to Villawood Immigration Detention Centre later this afternoon.
It could be the longest drive in Ollie's life. A 40-minute trip from Sydney's domestic airport out to Villawood Detention Centre. After years of dodging the Immigration Compliance Unit, Ollie's plight is over.
Okay, Ollie, how are we doing? Just want to grab your bag for me, please, mate? Okay. Just come through this way for us, okay? Okay, just pop your bag down over there for us. Okay. Ollie, can I just get you to step over here for me for a moment? I'm going to ask you if you'd like to sign this. What this is, it's an information pack on your rights whilst you're in detention. 2005. Okay, now whilst you are in detention, I'll just draw your attention, it's going to cost you $125 per day whilst you're in detention. That does not include the first day nor the last day of your detention, but every other day in between. Okay, if you don't pay that, it will become a Commonwealth debt, and you wouldn't be able to be granted a visa or return to Australia until such time as you pay that off in full. That's for you to read, okay? I'll keep hold of this one. I think he's relieved. The impression I got very, very strongly was that he's very relieved that he knows or has a clearer idea on where his future is going to be heading in the immediate future, rather than maybe a sense of apprehension or uncertainty. So I think he is relieved, yes. I think everyone would sort of agree that it's probably more comfortable to spend your last few days in any country outside of detention or in a sense of freedom. I mean, certainly he'll be well looked after, but I think anybody would choose as an option not being in a detention centre.
Very happy. Of course not. No, of course not.
During the interview with me regarding the cancellation of his visa, he did indicate that he might even possibly be better off in detention. His reasons were that he'd been sleeping in the rear of the vehicle that we actually located him working in.
Well, yeah, sometimes sleeping in the my bus. Sometimes bus, sometimes friends.
I know he's missing his family. It's quite unusual that the person will actually say to us, I think I'd actually be better off in detention rather than out of detention.
Ollie chose not to follow up any further court action in relation to him staying in Australia and was flown back to the Ukraine the following week.
Australia, very good country, nice country.
Over in customs, officers suspect this passenger has brought a large amount of drugs into the country. They need to take a much closer look at his bags to see if drugs are hidden deep inside the shell of the suitcase. It's not just drugs that customs officers are on the lookout for. Counterfeit goods are brought into the country every day, threatening the profits of legitimate businesses both here and overseas. And it's up to customs to help stop this illegal trade.
You pack them yourself?
In Melbourne, Mr. Dong Wei has just returned from a business trip to China with a bag full of brand name goods.
These all yours?
Yes.
Louis Vuitton shoes. Are these real or fake?
Yeah, LV.
Real?
Real.
Louis Vuitton. How much?
How much? 5,000 renminbi. 5,000 yuan.
How much Australian?
That's LV.
How many sunglasses you have? How much sunglasses you have?
Sunglasses, how much?
How many?
How many? 5 or 6? Or 6. 5 or 6?
5 or 6.
4. I forget.
Now, of course, owning some sunglasses and a few pairs of shoes isn't a crime, unless they're fake and you intend to sell them for a profit.
Well, global trade in counterfeit goods at the moment is about 6% of world trade and is worth about $450 billion US dollars. Most of that money goes towards organised crime. We have to stop it. It's a really big problem. It's costing Australian jobs. People are losing businesses because of the counterfeit goods.
And if the goods are real, then there might be unpaid duty to collect. And on luxury items like these, that could be thousands of dollars. Richard has just flown in from San Francisco, and you could say that he has come in on a song and a prayer.
Well, they tell me I have to have money to come into the country, and I don't have a dime on me.
Richard was referred to immigration by the Customs Primary Line Officer after he had declared his financial status nil.
I'll just ask a few questions, basically. The purpose of this interview is to find out the purpose and details of your travel to Australia. So you mentioned to me that you had not even a penny on you at the moment.
That's correct. I don't have a dime on me.
Okay. And you don't even have credit cards on you?
No.
What made you come to Australia?
Let's see here. A wild hare, drifting in the wind, new life, new adventure. I'm just out looking for adventure.
Although Richard's notions are romantic, they are not helping his cause.
How did you think you would be able to support yourself?
You know, I think, I'm a good person at heart, and good people have a tendency to run into other good people, and I can't tell you until I go out there and find out.
But you need money to live, basically, here.
Last week we met this man, a Spanish passenger suspected of carrying drugs.
We believe you have committed an offence.
X-rays indicate something organic inside his suitcase. But so far, officers have found nothing. However, with the sniffer dog giving a positive reaction, officers are now very interested in taking his overweight suitcase for a much closer examination.
Because we've got this concealment here, we'll take this to a tool room and we'll put a small gimlet in the concealment to extract a small amount of the powder, and we'll test to see what it is.
Right now, it's not looking good for him. Richard has arrived from San Francisco with no money and very little clothing.
You mentioned that you had other talents to offer and things, so what do you mean by that?
Well, let's go have a cup of coffee and we'll talk about it.
Unfortunately, I can't do that, I'm sorry. You can just explain to me, what do you mean by, what talents do you have to offer?
Let's see. I feel like you're trying to get me into this work trap again, and I have to tell you, I'm not here to work. I'm just here to meet.
No, I'm not trapping you into any kind of saying that you're here to work, but I'm saying, you mentioned that you have talents, so you just explain to me.
Okay.
What kind of talents?
I dance, I sing, I play instruments, I I fly airplanes.
Okay, and also you did mention to me that you're carrying a harmonica, which you intend to play.
Yeah.
And is that like busking?
No, you're misunderstanding me. That I'm not interested in money.
Okay. For me to be satisfied that you are a visitor, basically you need to have at least enough to show me that you're able to feed yourself, not be on the streets.
How much? Oh, I need an X dollar amount.
It just depends. I mean, I can't set an amount for you. I mean, even a backpacker's hotel, it probably will cost you about $50, $60 per day. You can't sleep out on the street.
Oh, I wasn't intending to sleep on the street. I'm a survivalist, and I love to backpack and hike and camp out in the woods, and I'm.
But you don't have much there along with you to do camping.
Have you ever heard of foraging before? Are you a survivalist? Have you ever done much camping?
Richard's foraging idea has set Sunita's alarm bells ringing.
Yeah, he says that, have you ever survived? Have you gone out camping? But even if you go out camping, he doesn't have much there. He's got to eat. And he hasn't got, in his pockets, all he had was his social security card. Somebody can't just get up and leave. So let's go on a holiday because Australia is nice and Australian people are nice. And kind of, I'm suspicious about his reasons.
Dampier, northwest Australia is home to one of our busiest seaports. Every year, almost 1,000 bulk ships come into port to collect their cargo of iron or salt and liquid gas. Customs checks each and every passport that comes through. For the customs officers boarding this vessel, a routine inspection can go either way. On this ship, a few of the passports have caught Officer Kayleen's attention.
Just a bit unusual with the date of issue.
Normally a passport's issued for 10 years. This one's been issued for a year.
It's just something we haven't seen before.
Captain, I have some concerns. See how on this passport here, you put your finger on here and see it is very smooth? You put your finger on this one, it is rough.
The officers have found an irregularity in a passport. Now they will perform a visual identification.
Captain, what we need to do, now we will do the face to passport. When we come to these crew, I just need to ask them a few questions about their passport. Thank you, Captain.
Over in Customs, officers are taking a very close look at this passenger's bags. They want to pierce the hard outer shell of his suitcase and try to find out why the case is so heavy.
Put a gimlet in the bag, and what we've extracted is a white powder out of the concealment within the bag. So we'll just test that to find out what it may be. It has given a strong reaction to heroin, so it may predominantly be heroin. These are only presumptive tests. They'll do their forensic tests and they'll determine exactly what the powder is, whether it's a combination or whether it's a drug that's been cut with both cocaine and heroin. But we'll definitely find out. Yeah, it's quite a significant detection. Yeah, it's definitely a good hit for our shift.
So they got their man. Incredibly, the passenger attempted to conceal in his suitcase over 1 kilogram of heroin with a street value of over $750,000. He pleaded guilty to importing a prohibited item. He is yet to be sentenced. As the iron ore carrier is being filled with its cargo, customs officers have found inconsistencies in 3 of the crew's passports.
That's great, thank you, sir. Thank you. That's great.
2 of the documents are given the okay, but Mike is still unsure of the 3rd.
Do you have any other form of identification?
Yeah. The majority of documents that we deal with are legitimate, but there are instances where we do detect documents that are either fraudulent in one aspect or another. Those crew members are dealt with accordingly.
With no money and very little clothing, Richard's plans for a cashless Australian adventure seem doubtful.
At this point of time, I'm not satisfied. I think he knows that if he says that he's going to work, that might go against him. So he's being really evasive, I feel.
Sunita is not buying into his romantic swagman yarn. She's convinced that he's here to work illegally.
Hi, Richard. Now, at this point of time, I'm not satisfied that you're a genuine tourist. The reason being, you do not have any plan or itinerary for your stay in Australia as a tourist. And you have admitted that you do not have any funds in cash or on credit cards available to you at present.
Okay.
At the end of the day, what I feel that you may be forced to work to even buy a ticket to return back to the US.
Once again, you haven't listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to. I can go walk up to the United Airline ticket counter right now. I'm not going back to the United States.
You will be going back to the United States because that's where you came from.
Quarantine officers, with the help of detector dogs and X-ray scanning, are trained to uncover any food, animal or plant materials that could be a threat to Australia.
We've got a girl coming from Korea and she's got 2 bags of food with food in them, hasn't declared it. So we're going to check what she's got.
So this is not your bag?
No, this is my bag. This take my sister hospital.
Pack.
Put me.
Do you know what's inside?
Maybe all the jumper.
Does everything belong to you or to your sister?
No, sushi for my sister, sushi for me.
Okay, no worries.
Shao has
I'll
just
check
come
this
back
bag.
from her annual
She
visit
checked
to
this
family
bag.
in Korea. She claims her sister's husband packed her bag.
What's that?
This one for tablets.
Okay, I have to check that one. I got no idea what this is. Have you ever seen this before?
No.
Excuse me? Can you tell me what this is?
Tablets, this one very
Yeah, but
good
this, it
for
doesn't look like tablet.
skinny. Very good for skinny, you know.
This looks like meat.
Meanwhile, at Melbourne Airport, Mr. Wei's return after a business trip to China hasn't gone quite as smoothly as he would have hoped.
Swiss. Very Swiss.
Got someone getting one of our clearing officers that'll be able to assess whether these are the genuine thing or not. So if they're genuine, he could be looking at some duty to pay. And if they're not, well, we might be taking some stuff off him. Yes, thank you. I have got like a lot of Louis Vuitton. This gentleman's Australian resident residing overseas, and his wife and child reside here. Okay. In his bag's a lot of Louis Vuitton shoes, worn.
Yep.
He's got a lot of sunglasses. He's just brought in. We'll look and see if they're the real deal. If not, we'll look to have duty paid on some of these things.
Louis Vuitton products are manufactured to a very high standard, and you can tell by looking at a lot of their products which are fake and which are real usually by the stitching on Louis Vuitton products is very, very precise, because they only use one piece of stitching that goes right around the whole product. So anywhere you see a double stitch on a Louis Vuitton product, in many places you can tell that it's not a real product. So this has got double stitching here, double stitching here. It's also got double stitching on the bottom. And also Louis Vuitton don't line their bags. It's not suede lined. I mean, they don't suede line, but they don't put any lining inside their bags either, and they only make them they make them in France, in Spain and the USA. So we can tell by looking, if it says made in Vietnam, then it's obvious. But if I had to make a guess, it probably wouldn't be real.
But are there enough to warrant seizing?
There's nothing here that I can see of a commercial nature. Seriously, really. I don't think there's any commercial.
If this is the way the guy travels, odds are he's going to take it all back home with him.
As for the watches and the shoes, Mr. Wei has receipts, but even those can be counterfeited.
We do actually have a list of places that make fake receipts that we gather over the years working here, which we know are fake. We've checked them out. That one I didn't have, but that's not to say that it wasn't a fake receipt, or the date had been doctored, or the certificate had been manufactured, so we can't tell. So we have to give the passengers the benefit of the doubt. So if Jeff's happy with that, then we don't proceed.
Penalties for importing counterfeit goods can include a $55,000 fine and 2 years in prison. As this passenger did not have a commercial quantity of counterfeit goods, he was allowed to go. In quarantine, officers are still trying to identify a suspicious package in Xiao's luggage.
Now with the lady here, she's declared food on her card, and she's told us that the food is in these 2 bags here. But this bag, your sister packed?
No, my sister, the husband.
Well, this lady, she's a regular traveller. For starters, you should know what's inside your bag. You should be packing it.
It's one of the golden rules of travel, but unfortunately, many people forget it.
What she's trying to tell us is she has no idea because the baggage was not packed by herself.
Having no idea is not a strong defence, especially if the item in question is highly prohibited.
Frog's fat.
Frog fat.
Frog fat. Okay? It is for boiling soup. It is a prohibited item.
That's right, it's frog fat, a highly sought-after anti-aging tonic in China. But cosmetic miracle or not, frog fat is an animal product and it's not acceptable to bring it into this country. And if diseased, could have a devastating effect on Australia's rare and endangered frogs. Xiao's also carrying prohibited beef products.
She has never brought in this sort of prohibited items before. It was all because her relatives put something into the bag.
While today Xiao's been given the benefit of the doubt, the incident has been recorded, and if Xiao repeats the offence, officers won't hesitate to prosecute.
That's okay, I won't take it.
The frog fat and beef will be destroyed, and this time the passenger's allowed to go.
There's no way she's going to get them, and if it was her bag, she would have been quinned.
Serious quarantine offenders face fines of more than $60,000 and the possibility of a criminal record. Richards had 10 minutes to find a compelling story to convince immigration that he should be allowed to stay here. But he has no money, there's a concern about his welfare, and Sunita might not have a choice.
Okay, Richard, have you thought about anything to respond to me?
We've talked about everything about 3 times over now. Let's see here. Sounds like you already got your mind made up. You tell me. Do we have anything more to talk about?
When you're in a remote area, you depend on small, portable equipment to help in decision-making. If Mike is still unhappy, he will have to detain the crewmen and send their passports off to Perth for further investigation.
Yeah, so far none of the stitching looks like it's been tampered with, and the security feature in it, I actually saw the security feature. Virtually all the stitching's tight, the UV parts are there. I think that, yeah, it all matches up to the book, so I really have a feeling this is a legitimate document. And it was issued in 2000, Captain?
This is the issue date.
Yes. Yes, things are looking a little bit clearer now, Captain. Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. That's great. Thank you, sir.
While the crew and the ship were given the all clear to sail, these bulk carriers can provide hideaways for drugs and human cargo. Yet another way our border is protected.
There's your coffee, Richard.
Richard's moment of truth has arrived. He had a dream of exploring our country, but immigration believes he'll have to work to support himself.
If I had $1,000, I wouldn't be hassled right now, right? So let's go and I'll call up my friend, I'll say, hey, wire me in $1,000, right? And you say, oh, okay, there's your $1,000. And then I walk out the door and throw the $1,000 into the wind. Is that going to make you recall me back into here? I don't know. You know,
He can't even afford a bus ticket or even train ticket. So I'm not so sure how, if we let him in, how he'll be able to support himself outside. That's my concern. He will end up being a destitute. Okay, I have taken your comments into consideration, but at this point of time, I can't justify immigration clearing you. I feel that you may be forced to work to at least support yourself here. So if you can sign this for me, please.
Can I refuse to sign this document?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you a copy of that and the attachment.
You got a garbage can anywhere right here. So let's get the record straight. My intent is not to come here as a beggar and a vagabond. You know, the spirit of adventure must go on. The world's been conquered by man, machine, and money. Now let's kill it with kindness. Ladies first.
Thank you.
This is what the blues is all about. You know, when you try to make some plans and you find yourself getting diverted and it comes from the soul here.
Richard was sent home that afternoon.